Daehan stood at the viewing window of the human colony ship, watching the planet Talmarine rotate slowly below. The world was beautiful, covered in purple oceans and silver forests that sparkled under twin suns. He had been here for 6 months now, working as part of Earth's first contact team with the Vardine people. Every day still felt like a dream. The door behind him opened with a soft hiss. Day turned and had to look up, far up, to see Veltara entering the observation deck. She was 9 feet tall, with skin that looked like living crystal. Today her skin showed soft blue colors, which Day had learned meant she was calm and happy. Her forearms moved gracefully as she walked, and her large eyes reflected the stars outside like twin moons. "You are here early," Veltara said. Her voice was deep and musical, like wind chimes in a storm. "The cultural exchange does not begin for another hour." Day smiled. "I like the quiet. It helps me think." Veltara moved to stand beside him, though she was careful to keep some distance. The Vardine were always careful around humans. One wrong move from someone so large could hurt someone so small. "What do you think about?" she asked. "Home, mostly," Day said, looking back at the stars. "My family. Whether I made the right choice coming here. Do you regret it?" "No," Day said quickly. "Never. This is the most amazing thing I've ever done. Meeting your people, learning about Talmarine, seeing how different life can be across the galaxy. It's just, sometimes lonely." Veltara's skin flickered with yellow, a color Day didn't recognize yet. "I understand lonely," she said quietly. "I am the only Vardine ambassador who chose to work so closely with humans. My people think I am strange for being so interested in such small creatures." Day laughed. "And my people think I'm strange for spending all my free time with aliens instead of other humans." "Then we are both strange together," Veltara said, and Day heard warmth in her voice. This had become their routine over the past few months. While other diplomats kept things formal and professional, Day and Veltara had developed something different. They talked about everything: philosophy, art, music, the loneliness of being the bridge between two completely different worlds. Day found himself looking forward to these conversations more than anything else in his day. The weeks passed, and their friendship grew deeper. Day taught Veltara about human poetry. Reading her verses from ancient Korean writers, she was fascinated by how humans could express so much feeling in so few words. Veltara shared Vardine star songs, mathematical patterns that her people used to map the universe. To Day's surprise, he found them beautiful. One evening, they met in the observation deck to watch a recording of Earth's aurora borealis. Day had promised to show it to her weeks ago. They sat in the darkness, watching ribbons of green and purple light dance across Earth's northern sky. "It's beautiful," Veltara whispered. "Your world creates such wonders." "We're lucky," Day said. "Earth is special. But so is Talmarine. I've never seen forests that sing in the wind like yours do." Veltara was quiet for a moment. Then, slowly, she extended one of her large hands. With just the tip of one finger, she gently touched the back of Day's hand. Her skin was warm, warmer than human skin, and it felt smooth like polished stone. The touch lasted only a second, but Day felt electricity run through his whole body. He looked up at Veltara and saw her skin had turned a deep pink color, swirling with gold. He didn't know what it meant, but he could guess. "Veltara," he said softly, "I should not have done that," she said, pulling her hand back. "Forgive me. It was inappropriate." "No," Day said quickly, "it wasn't. They looked at each other in the darkness, with Earth's aurora playing across their faces. Something had changed between them, and they both knew it. But others had noticed too. The next day, Day's colleague Yoon pulled him aside in the mess hall. Yoon was older, more experienced, and had been a diplomat for 20 years. "We need to talk about Veltara," Yoon said, his face serious. "What about her?" Day asked, though his stomach tightened. He knew what was coming. "People are talking, Day. They see how much time you spend together. They see how you look at her." Yoon sighed. I like Veltara. She's brilliant and kind. But you need to be realistic. She's not human. This can't go anywhere. We're just friends, Day said, but the words felt like lies. Are you? Yoon asked gently. Because it doesn't look that way. And even if you want more, it's impossible. You know that, right? She's 9 feet tall. She's silicon-based. You're carbon-based. You can't even breathe the same air comfortably for long periods. And children, that's completely impossible. Day said nothing. He had thought about all of this. Late at night when he couldn't sleep. He knew the reality. But knowing didn't change how he felt. That night, Day returned to the observation deck. He wasn't surprised to find Veltara already there, standing at the window. Her skin was dark blue, almost black. Sadness. The Vardeen Science Council spoke to me today, she said without turning around. They are concerned about my inappropriate attachment to a human. They reminded me that such feelings are pointless. Humans and Vardeen cannot bond properly, cannot create children, cannot build a real future together. Yoon said the same thing to me, Day admitted. Veltara finally turned to look at him. They are right, you know. In Vardeen culture, bonding and reproduction are sacred. They cannot be separated. A partnership that creates no offspring is considered hollow, empty, wrong. And in human culture, we're told to be practical, Day said. To think with our heads, not our hearts. To accept reality and move on. They stood in silence for a long moment. Then Day walked closer, standing right beside her even though she towered over him. He looked up at her face, at those moon-like eyes that seemed to hold entire galaxies. But I don't want to move on, he said quietly. Veltara's skin erupted in colors, pink and gold and silver, all swirling together. Neither do I, she whispered. Even though it's foolish. Even though it's impossible. Humans are good at impossible things, Day said, and he meant it. Outside the window, Talmarine turned slowly in the darkness, its purple oceans reflecting starlight. 2 people from 2 different worlds stood together, knowing that everything was against them, but choosing each other anyway. It was just the beginning of their story, and neither of them knew yet just how impossible their love would prove to be, or how far they would go to make it real. The following weeks were the happiest and most painful of Daehan's life. He and Veltara stopped hiding their feelings, though they were careful about showing them in public. They met every evening in the observation deck, talking for hours about everything and nothing. Sometimes they just sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars together. But the reality of their situation grew heavier every day. Day knew they needed answers. Real answers about what was possible between them. So he made an appointment with Dr. Hae Rin, the chief medical officer of the human colony ship. Dr. Hae Rin was a small woman with sharp eyes and a kind smile. She had been studying Vardeen biology since first contact began. When Day entered her office with Veltara, the doctor's expression told him she had been expecting this conversation. Sit, please, Dr. Hae Rin said, gesturing to a reinforced chair designed for Vardeen visitors. Day took a regular human chair beside it. We need to know the truth, Day said directly. Is there any way, any possibility, that Veltara and I could have a future together? A real future? Dr. Hae Rin pulled up holographic displays showing both human and Vardeen biology side by side. The differences were stark and undeniable. I'll be honest with you, she said gently. The challenges are severe. First, there's the physical incompatibility. Veltara, your body temperature runs at 45 degrees Celsius. Day, you would suffer heat damage from prolonged close contact. Your skin is crystalline, silicon-based, which is incredibly hard. Without meaning to, you could seriously hurt him. Veltara's skin turned dark blue. I would never hurt him. I know, Dr. Hae Rin said kindly. But accidents happen, especially in moments of intimacy. And that brings me to the second issue. She pulled up genetic maps. You are fundamentally different species. Humans are carbon-based. Vardeen are silicon-based. Our DNA structures don't even use the same basic building blocks. Reproduction between you is completely impossible. Not difficult. Not unlikely. Impossible. The word hung in the air like a death sentence. Day felt his chest tighten. He had known this, suspected it, but hearing it stated so clearly made it real. There must be something, he said quietly. Some way. I'm sorry, Day, Dr. Hayrin said, and she truly looked sorry. I wish I had better news. After they left the medical bay, Veltara and Day walked to the observation deck in silence. When the door closed behind them, Veltara sank to the floor, all four arms wrapped around herself. Even sitting, she was taller than Day standing. In my culture, this means we can never be together, she said, her voice breaking. A bonding without children is not recognized. It is considered selfish, hollow. My family would disown me. The council would exile me from Vardine society. Everything I have worked for, my position, my honor, all of it would be gone. Day knelt beside her, placing his small hand on one of her large ones. And if you had to choose? Between your position and this? Veltara looked at him with those moon-bright eyes. I do not want to choose, but if I must. She turned her hand over, gently holding his. I choose you, even knowing it means losing everything else. Before Day could respond, his communicator buzzed. It was Ambassador Na Sol, the senior Earth diplomat, requesting an immediate meeting. Day's stomach sank. The meeting was brief and brutal. Ambassador Na Sol sat behind her desk with Jin Wu, another diplomat, standing beside her. Both looked uncomfortable, but determined. We've received complaints from the Vardine Council, Na Sol said without preamble, about your relationship with Ambassador Veltara. They view it as inappropriate and disruptive to the treaty negotiations. My personal life is my own business, Day said, trying to keep his voice steady. Not when you're a representative of Earth, Jinwoo said. These treaty negotiations are worth trillions in trade and technology. We can't risk them because of a relationship that has no future anyway. You don't know that, Day said. Yes, we do, Nasal said, pushing a datapad toward him. Dr. Hay-Rin's report. We have access to all medical records involving potential human-alien interactions. We know it's impossible, Day. We know you can never have children with her, can never have a normal life. We're trying to save you from heartbreak. Maybe I don't want to be saved, Day said. Nasol's expression softened slightly. I understand what you're feeling, but you need to think practically. If you continue this relationship, we'll have no choice but to terminate your position and send you back to Earth. Is she worth your entire career? Day stood up. Yes, he said simply. She is. He left the office and went straight to find Veltara. She was in the Cultural Exchange Center, supposed to be teaching a class about Vardine art. But the room was empty. He found her in the back, surrounded by holographic displays of Vardine law codes. They are going to exile me, she said when she saw him. My closest friend Korveth sent me a message. The council has already prepared the documents. They say I am bringing shame to our people by pursuing a relationship that cannot produce offspring. In 3 days, they will formally strip me of my ambassador status. I'm being sent back to Earth, Day said. Unless I end things with you. Unless I end things with you, they looked at each other across the empty room. The situation was impossible. Both of them were being forced to choose between their entire lives and each other. It would have been sensible to walk away, to accept reality, to move on with their separate lives. I have made my choice, Veltara said firmly. I love you, Daehan. I know it is foolish. I know it breaks every rule my people have. But I would rather be exiled with you than honored without you. Day felt tears running down his face. I love you too. And I'm not going back to Earth. If they want to fire me, let them. I'm staying with you. But what will we do? Veltara asked. Where will we go? How can we build a life together when the universe itself says we cannot? Day walked over to her, standing close despite the heat radiating from her body. He looked up at her face, at the swirling colors of emotion on her crystalline skin. "I don't know yet," he said honestly. "But humans have a saying. Where there's a will, there's a way. We've broken rules that everyone said couldn't be broken. We've made the impossible possible." "You truly believe that?" Veltara asked. "I have to," Day said. "Because the alternative is losing you. And I'm not ready to accept that." That night, Day couldn't sleep. He lay in his quarters, staring at the ceiling, his mind racing. Everyone said it was impossible. The biology said it was impossible. But he kept thinking about human history, about all the times people had been told something couldn't be done, and then found a way to do it anyway. Humans had conquered diseases that killed millions. They had traveled to other planets, other stars. They had built machines that could think, created life in laboratories, bent the rules of physics themselves. Maybe, just maybe, they could bend one more rule. By morning, Day had the beginning of an idea. It was crazy, probably impossible, and would require resources and expertise he wasn't sure he could get. But it was something, a chance, a hope. He sent a coded message to Dr. Hei Rin. "I need to talk to you about something that's never been done before. Are you willing to try the impossible?" The reply came back within minutes. "I'm a scientist. The impossible is what we do. Come to my lab." Outside Day's window, the twin suns of Talmarine were rising, painting the purple oceans with gold. A new day was beginning. And with it, a new hope. Dr. Hei Rin's laboratory was quiet in the early morning hours. Day Han stood before a holographic display showing genetic code, both human and Vardine, spinning in complex patterns. Beside him stood Dr. Tay, a geneticist who specialized in synthetic biology. Dr. Hei Rin had brought him into the project immediately. "What you're suggesting has never been done, Doctor," Tay said, studying the display. "Creating a hybrid offspring from two completely incompatible species. Carbon-based and silicon-based life. It goes against everything we understand about biology." "But theoretically possible?" Day pressed. Dr. Tay rubbed his tired eyes. "Theoretically? Maybe. We would need to create entirely new genetic structures. A combination of DNA and the silicon-based equivalent, the Vardine use. We'd need an artificial womb that could support both types of biology. We'd need to solve temperature regulation, nutrient processing, cellular development." He trailed off, shaking his head. "But you're not saying no?" Day observed. Dr. Tay looked at him with a slight smile. "No. I'm not saying no. I'm saying it will be the most difficult thing anyone has ever attempted. It will take years. It might fail completely, and even if we succeed, there's no guarantee the result will be healthy or viable." "I understand the risks," Day said. "Do you?" Dr. Hei Rin asked gently. "Day, this will require resources we don't have on this ship. You'll need to set up an independent research facility. You'll need funding, equipment, and team members willing to risk their careers on something that might never work. You're already being sent back to Earth. How do you plan to do any of this?" Day pulled out a datapad. "I've been making some contacts. There's an independent research station in deep space called New Horizon. It's neutral territory, not controlled by Earth or the Vardine. They rent laboratory space to private researchers. As for funding," he hesitated. "My family has some money, and I have savings. It might be enough to start." "You'd spend your entire life savings on this?" Dr. Tay asked. "Wouldn't you?" Day replied. "If it meant being with the person you love?" Dr. Tay and Dr. Hei Rin exchanged glances. Finally, Dr. Hei Rin nodded. "I'll help. But I can't leave my position here. I'll consult remotely. Provide research support. It's the best I can do." "I'll come with you, Doctor," Tay said suddenly. Both Day and Dr. Hei Rin looked at him in surprise. He shrugged. "I'm old. I've spent 40 years playing it safe, doing approved research, following the rules. Just once, I want to try something impossible. Just once, I want to see if we can break the universe's rules." Day felt hope bloom in his chest. "Thank you. Both of you," You have no idea what this means, but there were still massive obstacles ahead. That afternoon, Veltara faced the Vardine Council of Elders through a holographic connection. Day stood beside her, even though the council had not acknowledged his presence. The council chamber on Talmarine was vast, with ceilings 100 feet high. 12 Vardine elders sat in a circle, their crystalline bodies ancient and enormous. The eldest, whose name was Thirval, spoke first. Veltara, you have brought shame upon yourself and your family, Thirval said. His voice rumbled like grinding stone. You pursue a connection with a creature who cannot give you offspring. This is against our most sacred laws. A bonding must create new life, or it is meaningless. With respect, Elder, Veltara said, her voice steady despite her skin showing nervous yellow flickers. Perhaps our laws are incomplete. Perhaps there are forms of bonding we have not imagined. You speak like a child, another elder said dismissively. The laws have existed for 10,000 years. They are not incomplete. You are simply unwilling to accept reality. I accept reality, Veltara said. But I also believe reality can be changed. The human people have shown me this. They do not accept impossible as a final answer. The humans are reckless and arrogant, Thirval said. They think they can rewrite the fundamental rules of nature itself. This is hubris, not wisdom. I'm going to try anyway, Veltara said quietly. With or without your approval, I will pursue this relationship. We are working on a solution, a way to create offspring, despite our biological differences. The council chamber erupted in shocked sounds, like rocks grinding together. The elders couldn't believe what they were hearing. This is madness, one elder shouted. You would create an abomination, mixing silicon and carbon life? This is an insult to nature. Nature doesn't care about our rules, Day said suddenly, speaking for the first time. The elders turned their massive eyes on him, and he felt like an insect under their gaze, but he didn't back down. Nature creates whatever can survive. If we can create a healthy, happy child from our love, then we're not breaking nature's rules. We're following them in a new way. You are dismissed, Thirval said coldly, speaking to Veltara. The council will deliberate. But you should know, if you continue this path, you will be exiled. You will lose your position, your status, your family connections, everything. Is this human truly worth all of that? Veltara stood tall, her forearms at her sides, her skin burning with determination red. Yes, she said simply. He is. The holographic connection ended. Veltara and Day stood in silence for a moment. Then Veltara's skin shifted to dark blue, and she began to cry. Vardine tears were different from human tears, more like liquid crystal that fell from their eyes. Day had never seen her cry before. I am losing everything, she whispered. My family sent me messages this morning. They say I am no longer their daughter. My friends from childhood have blocked all communications. In 3 days, I will be formally exiled. I will have nothing. Day took her hand, or, rather, one of her large fingers. You'll have me, he said. And we'll have our research. We'll have hope. Is that enough? Veltara asked. It has to be, Day said. The next day, Day submitted his official resignation to Earth's diplomatic corps. Ambassador Na Sol called him to her office, one last time. This is a mistake, Day, she said, but her voice was gentler than before. You're throwing away a brilliant career. No, Day said. I'm choosing a different brilliant career. I'm going to do something no one has ever done before. I'm going to prove that love is stronger than biology. Na Sol studied him for a long moment. Then she pulled out a datapad and slid it across the desk. This is a private account. It contains a donation from someone who wishes to remain anonymous. It should help with your research expenses. Vader, Apane. Vader. Day looked at the amount on the datapad, and his eyes widened. It was substantial. Enough to fund several years of research. Who? I told you, Anonymous, Nasol said, but she was almost smiling. Some of us old romantics still believe in impossible dreams. Don't make us regret it. 1 week later, Day and Veltara stood in the docking bay of the research station New Horizon. The station was small, floating in deep space between star systems, home to researchers and scientists who wanted to work without government interference. Dr. Tay was already there, setting up equipment in their new laboratory. He had brought 3 assistants, young scientists eager for the adventure. The laboratory was modest but well-equipped, with space for both human and Vardine researchers to work comfortably. Welcome to your new home, Dr. Tay said, gesturing around the lab. It's not fancy, but it's ours. Are you ready to attempt the impossible? Day looked up at Veltara, who looked down at him. Despite everything they had lost, despite all the uncertainty ahead, they were together. And they had hope. We're ready, Day said. Outside the laboratory windows, stars burned in the darkness of space. Somewhere out there, both Earth and Talmarine continued without them. Their families, their former colleagues, their old lives, all going on as if they had never existed. But here, in this small laboratory on a forgotten station, something new was about to begin. Something that would prove humans never accept no when they set their minds to something. Something that would change not just their lives, but the entire galaxy. The impossible was about to become possible, one experiment at a time. The first year at New Horizon Station was filled with more failures than Daehan had ever experienced in his life. The laboratory that had seemed so full of hope became a place of constant disappointment. The first embryo they created lasted only 3 days before its cells began breaking apart. The carbon and silicon structures couldn't integrate properly. Dr. Tay worked 20 hours a day trying to solve the problem, adjusting the genetic code, changing the nutrient mixture in the artificial womb. Nothing worked. The second embryo lasted a week. The third made it to 10 days before failing. The fourth, fifth, and sixth all died within the first week. Each failure felt like a knife in Day's heart, and he could see the pain in Veltara's color-shifting skin. Every time they lost an embryo, her skin went dark blue for days. Maybe they're right, Veltara said one night, after the 7th embryo failed. They sat together in their small quarters on the station. Day on a human-sized chair, and Veltara on the floor, so they could be at similar heights. Maybe this is impossible. Maybe we're fighting against the universe itself. No, Day said firmly, though doubt was eating at him too. We're learning. Each failure teaches us something new. We just need more time. How much time? Veltara asked. How much money? How much heartbreak? Day, we've spent almost all your savings. Dr. Tay is exhausted. His assistants are starting to lose hope. What if we never succeed? Day had no answer for that. He just held her hand and tried to be strong. By the end of the 2nd year, they had attempted 8 embryos. All had failed. Day's money was almost gone. The station's administrator was starting to ask questions about when they could pay next month's rent. Dr. Tay looked 10 years older than when they started, his hair now completely gray. But something unexpected happened. News of their project had spread across the galaxy. Some people mocked them, calling it the human's folly or the love that couldn't be. But others were inspired. Articles were written about the couple willing to risk everything for love. Documentaries were made about their project. One day, a message arrived at the station. It was from a young Vardine scientist named B. Young. The message was simple. I believe in what you're doing. I want to help. I'm coming to join you. When Bai Young arrived 2 weeks later, the whole team was shocked. He was young for a Vardine, only 30 years old, barely 6 feet tall. In Vardine terms, he was practically a child. But his eyes burned with determination. Why? Veltara asked him. Why would you leave Talmarine to join a project that might never work? You'll be exiled like me. Because, B. Young said, his skin showing bright, excited colors. You're asking the right questions. For 10,000 years, My people have said bonding must create children. But why? What if bonding itself is what matters? What if love is more important than biology? These questions scare the elders, but they excite me. If we succeed, we change everything. If we fail, at least we tried to change everything. Bai Young brought new ideas and new energy to the project. He had studied silicon-based genetics his whole life and saw patterns the human scientists had missed. Working together with Dr. Tay, they developed a new approach to integrating carbon and silicon structures at the cellular level. The 9th embryo was created using their new methods. For the first 2 weeks, it seemed like another failure. The cells weren't integrating properly. Everyone prepared for disappointment. But then, on day 15, something changed. The cells suddenly began working together. The carbon structures and silicon structures found a balance. The embryo started growing steadily. "It's working," Dr. Tay whispered, staring at the monitors. "I can't believe it, but it's actually working." They didn't celebrate. They were too afraid to hope. But as the embryo continued to develop, passing 3 weeks, then 4, then 6, cautious optimism began to grow. At 8 weeks, the embryo died. Day was in their quarters when Dr. Tay came to tell them. He didn't need to say anything. The look on his face said everything. Veltara made a sound like breaking glass and turned away. Her skin went completely black, blacker than Day had ever seen it. That night was the darkest of Day's life. He sat on the floor of their quarters, staring at nothing. They had been so close. 8 weeks was longer than any previous attempt. For a brief moment, they had believed. And then it was taken away. "I can't do this anymore," Day said quietly. "I thought I was strong enough, but I'm not. Every failure breaks something inside me. I don't know how many more times I can break before there's nothing left." Veltara moved to sit beside him. She was careful, always careful, but she wrapped one of her arms around him as gently as she could. Her warmth surrounded him. "Then we stop," she said softly. "We've tried. No one can say we didn't try. We can just be together. That can be enough." They sat in silence for a long time. Day thought about giving up, about accepting that some things truly were impossible. It would be easier. The pain would stop. They could build a different kind of life together, without children, without this constant heartbreak. But then Veltara spoke again, and this time there was something different in her voice. "There is a Vardine saying," she said, "mountains do not apologize for being mountains. Rivers do not apologize for flowing to the sea. Why should we apologize for loving? Why should we apologize for trying to create something beautiful from that love?" Day looked up at her. "You want to keep going?" "One more time," Veltara said. "The 9th embryo taught us something. It showed us we were on the right path. It showed us it can work. We just need to refine it more. One more attempt. If that fails, then we stop. But I don't want to quit when we came so close." Day thought about it. He was so tired, so heartbroken. But Veltara was right. They had been close. The 9th embryo had shown them success was possible. Could he really walk away now? "One more time," he agreed. The 10th attempt began 2 months later. Dr. Tay and Bai Young had spent those months analyzing every detail of the 9th embryo's development, understanding exactly when and why it had failed. They made tiny adjustments to the genetic code, refined the nutrient mixture, improved the artificial womb's temperature regulation. The 10th embryo was created with all their knowledge, all their hope, all their heartbreak poured into it. For the first 2 weeks, it developed normally. At 4 weeks, it was still growing. At 8 weeks, everyone held their breath, remembering when the 9th had failed. But this embryo kept going. 10 weeks, 12 weeks, 16 weeks. At 20 weeks, the artificial womb showed clear developmental milestones. The embryo had a recognizable form, with features from both parents. It had skin that showed hints of crystalline structure but remained flexible. It had hands with 3 fingers, like Vardine, but sized proportionally smaller. It had a heartbeat that sounded like music. "It's going to make it," Dr. Hayrin said over the video connection from the human colony ship. She had been monitoring the project remotely the whole time. "I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think it's going to make it." News spread fast. The Vardine Council sent observers to the station, grudgingly interested despite themselves. Earth's government quietly began monitoring the project, seeing potential for revolutionary biotechnology. Other species across the galaxy watched with fascination. At 30 weeks, the embryo was fully formed and healthy. The artificial womb showed all systems functioning normally. The integration of carbon and silicon biology was complete and stable. Against all odds, against everything science had said was possible, it was working. Day and Veltara stood before the artificial womb every day, watching their child develop. Sometimes they talked to it, telling stories about Earth and Tal Marine, about love that refused to accept impossible. Sometimes they just watched in silent wonder. "We did it," Day whispered one night, his hand pressed against the glass of the artificial womb. "We actually did it." Veltara's skin glowed with every color imaginable, joy and hope and love all swirling together. "Yes," she said. "We did." The impossible had become possible. And soon, very soon, their daughter would be born. The day their daughter was born, the entire research station gathered in the laboratory. Dr. Tay monitored the artificial womb with steady hands. Though Day could see excitement in his eyes, Bai Young stood ready with medical equipment designed specifically for their hybrid child. Dr. Hayrin watched through a holographic connection from the human colony ship. And she wasn't alone. Dozens of scientists from across the galaxy had requested permission to observe this historic moment. Daehan stood beside Veltara, holding one of her large fingers with his entire hand. His heart was racing. After 3 years of failure and heartbreak, after spending everything he had, after being exiled and mocked and doubted, this moment had finally arrived. "The womb is opening, Doctor," Tay announced. "All vital signs are stable. Here we go." The artificial womb slowly opened like a flower blooming. Inside, wrapped in specialized fluid, was their daughter. Dr. Tay carefully lifted her out, draining the fluid and wrapping her in a soft blanket. She was beautiful. She was 5 feet tall, much larger than a human newborn but smaller than a Vardine infant. Her skin was unlike anything Day had ever seen. It had a slight crystalline shimmer like her mother's, but it was soft and flexible like human skin. Colors moved across it gently, pale pinks and golds that seemed to glow from within. Her eyes, when they opened, were large like Veltara's but warm like Day's, holding both starlight and earth in their depths. She had 3 fingers on each hand, delicate but strong. "She's perfect," Veltara whispered, her skin erupting in every color of joy imaginable. Dr. Tay brought the baby to them. Veltara took her carefully in 2 of her arms, cradling the tiny life against her chest. The baby made a soft sound, almost like singing, and reached out with one small hand. "Hello, little one," Veltara said softly. "Welcome to the universe." Day couldn't speak. He could only stare at his daughter, this impossible miracle, this living proof that love could overcome any obstacle. Tears ran down his face as he gently touched her hand. She wrapped her fingers around his, and he felt his heart expand with love so fierce it almost hurt. "What will you name her?" Dr. Tay asked. Day and Veltara had discussed this many times over the past months. They wanted a name that honored both their worlds, both their cultures. "Hana," Day said. "It means one in Korean. She is one, unique in all the universe." "Velnara," Veltara added. "In my language, it means new light. She is the light of a new possibility." "Hana Velnara," Dr. Tay said, smiling. "A beautiful name for a beautiful child." The news of Hana's successful birth spread across the galaxy like wildfire. For days, the research station was flooded with messages from scientists, diplomats, reporters, and ordinary people from 100 different worlds. Some were congratulatory, others were skeptical. But all were amazed. The Vardine Council requested a formal meeting 2 weeks after Hana's birth. Day and Veltara brought their daughter to face them through holographic connection. The 12 elders sat in their massive chamber, looking down at the small family before them. Elder Thurval spoke first, his ancient voice thoughtful. "We were wrong," he said simply. Those 3 words echoed through the chamber. "We said this was impossible. We said you were breaking nature's laws, but we see now that you were following nature's laws in a way we had never imagined." Another elder leaned forward, studying Hana with fascination. "The child is healthy? Stable?" "Completely healthy, Doctor," Rin confirmed, appearing in a separate hologram. "We've run every test imaginable. Her carbon-silicon hybrid biology is not only stable, it's remarkably resilient. She has the best qualities of both species." "Then we have a decision to make," Thurval said. He looked directly at Veltara. "You were exiled for pursuing this relationship. You lost your position, your family connections, everything. But you have created something we thought impossible. You have expanded our understanding of what bonding can mean. The Council has deliberated, and we have decided to create a new category in our laws. Bridge unions. Partnerships between different species that create offspring through new means will now be recognized and honored." Veltara's skin flashed with shocked colors. "You're recognizing our union?" "Yes," Thurval said. "And more, we are restoring your status as an ambassador. Your family connections will be restored. You will be honored, not shamed. You showed us that our ancient laws were incomplete, and you did so with courage and love." Day felt Veltara trembling beside him. She had lost so much when she chose him. To have it returned felt like a dream. "Thank you," Veltara said, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for seeing the truth." Earth's government had a different response. 1 month after Hana's birth, Ambassador Na Sol contacted Day with an offer. "We want you back," she said bluntly. "Both of you. We're creating a new division. Interspecies Relations and Biocompatibility Studies. We want you and Veltara to head it. We want to help other cross-species couples have what you have." "You fired me," Day pointed out, though he was smiling. "We were wrong," Nasol said, echoing the Vardine elders. "You proved that human determination can overcome biological barriers. That's valuable. More than valuable, it's revolutionary. So what do you say? Will you come work for Earth again?" Day looked at Veltara, who nodded. "We'll do it," he said. "But on our terms. We work as co-directors, equal partners, and we continue our research at New Horizons Station. We're not leaving." "Deal," Nasol said immediately. The years that followed were busier than Day had ever imagined. He and Veltara split their time between the research station and diplomatic work. They helped 17 other cross-species couples successfully create hybrid children using the methods they had pioneered. Each success felt like a small miracle. Dr. Tay eventually retired, proud of what they had accomplished. B. Young took over as head of the genetic research team and continued to refine their techniques. Dr. Rin wrote several papers on hybrid biology that revolutionized the field. But the most important work happened at home. Watching Hana grow, she was remarkable. At 2 years old, she could speak both Korean and the Vardine language fluently. Her skin changed colors with her emotions like her mother's, but she had her father's curiosity and determination. She was strong like a Vardine but gentle like a human. She belonged to both worlds and to neither, creating her own unique path. 5 years after Hana's birth, Day and Veltara stood in the same observation deck where they had first touched hands so many years ago. They had returned to the human colony ship for a diplomatic conference. Hana stood between them, now as tall as her father, pressing her hands against the viewing window as she watched Earth rise in the viewport. "Is that where you're from, Papa?" Hana asked, pointing at the blue and green planet. "Yes," Day said, lifting her up so she could see better. "That's Earth. That's where humans come from. And the purple planet is where Mama's from," Hana said. "Talmarine." "That's right," Veltara said, her skin glowing with pride and love. "Where am I from?" Hana asked. looking up at both her parents with those unique eyes that held Earth and stars together. Day and Veltara looked at each other and smiled. It was Day who answered. "You're from everywhere and nowhere, little one. You're from the space between worlds. You're from the moment when two people refused to accept impossible and chose love instead. You're from courage and hope and stubborn human determination. You're from the stars themselves." "That sounds nice," Hana said, satisfied. She went back to watching Earth, her small hand pressed against the glass. Day thought back to that day 5 years ago when Yoon had told him this relationship was impossible. When the Vardine Council had said they could never bond. When every piece of science said they could never have children together. Everyone had been so certain, so absolutely sure that biology would win, but they had all forgotten one thing. Humans don't accept no for an answer. When faced with impossible, humans say, "Watch this," and find another way. They had done it throughout their entire history, breaking every rule that said something couldn't be done, pushing past every barrier, refusing to give up, and this time, that stubbornness, that impossible human determination, had created something beautiful. Not just Hana, though she was the most precious result. They had changed the galaxy's understanding of what was possible. They had proven that love could transcend biology, that family could be created in new and wonderful ways, that the universe's rules were more flexible than anyone had imagined. "They said you were too big to bear my children," Day said quietly to Veltara. "But I chose love anyway." Veltara's skin rippled with soft colors. "And I chose you. And together, we chose the impossible." "It wasn't impossible," Day said, watching their daughter point excitedly at a passing ship. "It was just hard. And humans are very good at hard things." Outside the window, Earth and Talmarine both hung in space. Two worlds that had seemed impossibly far apart, but were now connected by the family standing in the observation deck. And somewhere in the galaxy, 17 other families were discovering the same truth. That love, combined with determination and stubborn refusal to quit, could overcome any obstacle the universe placed in its way. Hana turned to her parents with a bright smile, her skin glowing with happy colors. "Can we go home now?" she asked. "Where's home?" Veltara asked gently. Hana thought for a moment, then reached out to hold both her parents' hands. "Home is wherever we're all together," she said. And in that simple statement from their impossible daughter, they knew she had understood the most important truth of all. Home wasn't a planet or a place. Home was love, and love, as they had proven beyond any doubt, could overcome anything.